It's predictions time for one of my favorite traditions of the year, NXT Great American Bash, taking place in Atlanta this Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, if I'm not mistaken. It's taking place on the same day as Saturday night's main event, of course. We've got 5 matches that have been announced for the show. We've got a contract signing as well. Our match order today will be the NXT Championship, Obafemi versus Yokorishi Inamura. I promise I'll get it right as we go along. We've got Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy. We've got Falls Count Anywhere for the North American Championship. Ethan Page going against Ricky Saints. We've got the Women's North American Championship on the line with Sol Ruka defending against Izzy Dane of the Culling. We will be talking about that contract signing. Trick Williams, the TNA champion, with his opponents for Slammiversary being 2 TNA stars, Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. You might get an early prediction from us for that show as well. And we will be main eventing our stream with the debuting Blake Monroe teaming with Jordan Grace. We'll be going against Fatal Influence members JC Jane, the NXT Women's Champion, and Fallon Henley. And if you look at the screen right now, that's right, it's myself in the hot seat, NXT as always. But as I said, one of my favorite traditions, always when it comes to the Great American Bash, 2 regular guests. We come together every time at this time of year. I've got old Ed Fries, and the natural Astrid Bizarro from our local establishment. Great to have you both on board. First, Astrid, I'll start with you. How are you doing, and what are your excitement levels for the Great American Bash this weekend?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm glad we continue on with the tradition that we started at, 2-3 years at this point now. We haven't forgotten about it. No, I'm really looking forward to it. I always like what the NXT, even with sometimes the card being a little bit predictable, but they still deliver every time, no matter what, when it comes to the wrestling aspect of it. So looking forward to it.
Should be good. If I give you a score of 1 out of 10, where are you sitting right now?
I would say maybe like an 8.
It's a good, respectable score, that one. Ed, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to see you. Welcome back.
Good to see you. I'm sitting about the same place, about a 7.5, 8. I think I'll get more hype as we get closer to the show. I said last night I could see none of these titles changing hands, or I could see most of these titles on these title matches changing hands. It really could go either way if NXT decides to do something interesting because they're going up directly against All In. Because All In starts at 3 o'clock Eastern as well. So with both shows going on at the same time to try to grab things, they could do something drastic if they want to. So
I'm interested as we go along in the stream, Ed, if you have ideas of what that drastic move just might be, because like you say, I mean, WWE looks like they're countering AEW. We're trying to this weekend anyway. Great American Bash, Saturday night's main event, Evolution as well. It's a host of shows there. It's a lot of viewing for one that is not in the right time zone in the world. But NXT, you'll be suffering like me with that. Great American Bash, where are your excitement levels at on with the 4 PLEs we've got this weekend?
Yeah, I mean NXT's been one of my consistently favorite shows all year this year. So for me, it's going to be like an 8 as well. I think that they've put on great shows all year. I hope the form continues with this. There is same as Evolution. I think there's a lot of stuff to come out of this, and obviously possibly some movements in terms of people moving cards and changing shows.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at the card itself, I am actually quite hyped for the show because I'll be honest, NXT's not been my favorite show the last recent weeks. And I think that's quite controversial with the lineup I've got with me today because we've got pro NXTers in the house here. And like, for me, I don't know, I've found it a bit lukewarm. I'm a bit disappointed there's no Hank and Tank on this show. What's happened to the tag team championships? I feel like certain people were in the wrong area of the show as well. Like I sit and think to myself, as much as I love Obafemi and as much as I love seeing people get opportunities, I do feel myself that some of these title defenses have been a bit predictable. Therefore, I found the championship run not as good as it could be. I'm pretty much waiting for my Ricky Saints to get towards the main event. Where's Ethan Page been at for a long time? You know what I mean? Trick Williams is now concentrating on TNA at the meantime, and he's got Wesley in his back pocket. Like for me, as great as to have variety, I think I'm missing that big time match that really is going to sink and hook me in. I've not had that, I feel, since Stand and Deliver, but that's where I'm currently at. But I think I'm going to be persuaded quite differently as we go through this stream. And I'm going to say right now, my excitement levels is a 6, but I'm pretty sure that can be changed. But that puts me back then to Astrid for the first question then. What match are you most looking forward to of that lineup?
I am stuck between Ethan and Ricky and then the women's tag match. I feel like there's something that could come out of the women's tag match that could make it a little bit more different, hopefully. Because if not, it might seem a little bit predictable in the sense of it. So I'm hoping they surprise us with that one. With Ethan and Ricky, I feel like they always deliver when they're together. I just think that it's just probably the way of somehow Ricky's gonna get it out of NXT somehow sooner or later because we don't really need him here right now aside from what he's got unless they move into the main event scene. So I feel like he's one of those like people like kind of like in limbo right now. So we'll see what happens after that match.
We'll have to wait and see. Indeed, Ed, what is the match you're most looking forward to this weekend?
Yoshiki Inamura taking on Obafemi. I love both of these guys. They are my pet projects on NXT. Love them to death. Can't wait to watch them both fight. I'm going to be watching it like this, though. Hands over my eyes like Asher whenever Axiom and Nathan Frazier started to fight.
I think we all do that probably on this side of the stream. NXT, what match are you most looking forward to, my friend?
I mean, for me, just because I think that they need a do-over from Battleground, I'm going to say Ethan Page and Ricky Saints because I wasn't keen and I wasn't sold on the last one. So I'm hoping that they are able to step up the quality of this one and deliver something better. Don't get me wrong, Obafemi, the world title scene, that's just meat on meat, so that's going to be exciting. But I'm going to say Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page.
I'm torn between quite a few matches, to be honest, but I'm gonna say I'm most interested in the Blake Monroe debut because, as Astrid alluded to earlier, there is an opportunity to have some fun with this tag team match because, of course, you have the classic story with Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe. Can they coexist? It's Blake Monroe's debut match. So far, feels like she's been cheered quite a bit. I don't know if it naturally fits her character, so time will tell if that works into something here at the Great American Bash or not. But that is our main event match of the stream. And before we dive in with our first predicted match, we've got a question from Ray, and we want people involved in the stream. So thank you, Ray, for your early comment asking, do you think there'll be any returns or debuts? I think I'm going to shoot that question straight down to Ed,
I don't see anybody that would make sense to have something shocking happen. There's no independent star that's signed or a free agent that makes a lot of sense. So I don't think there's anybody there. I think Slammiversary has a potential for an AJ Styles showing up because I think he's got one small run in TNA left before he ends there. I guess if I'd have to say anybody, maybe Matt Cardona shows up with them working with Dark State on the most recent Impact show, that there's a chance that they have Cardona show up here to call somebody out or kind of do what Seth Rollins did before with that, calling out Triple H on NXT. I think you could have him call out Dark State in the middle of the ring on a show like this.
That would be awesome. That would have a feeling of an old NXT style takeover. Do you know what I mean? Like with Impact and TNA already having their flag in NXT on a regular basis, to have someone actually call out some of the talent there on the show that have come and invaded on that side of things would be quite interesting. NXT, do you have any names you could see as a return, a debut?
I was just Googling an injury list, and there is no sort of big names that are out injured that could possibly return. I think, like I said, Ed said, that Matt Cardona turning up may be the biggest one. So you never know. Fingers crossed.
That would be an interesting one. Astrid, any for you?
I wouldn't call it a return or a debut per se, but I feel like the only person that I could kind of see showing up somehow, making their presence known at the show itself, will be Masha Slamovich. That's the only one I can kind of think of.
I like that shout a lot. It does seem to make the most sense with the fact that Grace and obviously Jane will have their match at Evolution. And of course, the winner of that will go on to Slammiversary for title versus title. So a Slamovich in the crowd kind of vibe, I think would make a lot of sense, especially say Slamovich was to walk away double champion after Slammiversary. I think that would be a case then that NXT audience would need reintroducing to a Masha. So Astrid, I'm going to agree with you. Our local establishment in the house there. Come to say hello to Ed and to Astrid. So how we're doing today. We're doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us in the meantime. Let's go with our first match, shall we? I think it's a good time to do so. NXT Championship is the match Ed's most looking forward to, so why make him wait? Obafemi is going to be in action defending that NXT Championship, and he'll be taking on Yoshiki Inamura, of course, for the title. Inamura defeating the new Jasper Troy, of course, to get this number one contenders match here. And to be fair, Briggs trying to win the TNA Championship a couple of weeks ago was unsuccessful. And of course, now Inamura has a chance to bring in NXT gold here. Briggs made this a bit more interesting for me. I'm not going to lie to you on NXT last night, not this past week. It was last night. Pretty much saying that this is our only chance. And he kind of, Inamura wants to do this with honor, seems to want to do it with grace. Briggs made sure that a brawl started. And for me, that was kind of fun. NXT, I'm coming to you first on this one. How have you felt with this one, with the build, and how do you see it playing out?
I mean, we have just done the Evolution predictions, and this one is kind of the same. That there's been a minor build to it, but look, I'm generally just looking forward to seeing two big guys. Like, for me, this is going to be a great test for Oba, because a lot of his opponents recently have been not exactly the biggest guys in terms of stature, in terms of physique. So it'll be really good to see how he goes up against someone like Inamura, especially like the Pro Wrestling Noah style as well, the Japanese style, just to see. For me, this almost feels like a test for Obafemi, just to see, not even really a test, but just to see how he copes with someone else with a different wrestling style. So I'm excited for it just on that basis alone.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. There, Astrid, excitement levels, and what you've seen with the build so far, and you can even share a prediction if you wish to at this point.
Well, I'm not going to steal Ed's idea, so I'm going to let him speak on that end of it. But I feel like last night, definitely having Josh being involved in here in that moment when it was in Amura's moment, I feel like there's something that really changed for me in the way I thought about this match. Because at first I just thought it was going to be a pretty even match. I liked Inamura's last match, and I feel like it was very hard-hitting. And I got really excited for just thinking, oh, this is going to be similar with Oba then, because it's somebody of similar stature and the power there and the speed. And then last night just made me think a little bit differently about the match in itself and how it's going to turn out. But in the end, I'm glad it's going to be one of those matches that even though Oba's going to retain, it's still going to be a great showcasing for Inamura in the end. I feel it's going to be one of those matches that the crowd is really going to fall in love with him, and the crowd is really going to be really behind him the whole time. And it'd be great to see, especially when you have somebody like Oba that, even though he's technically a heel, a lot of people love him as well. So it'll be pretty interesting to see the crowd kind of being torn about them as the match happens. The only thing at the end, I just see Oba retaining though.
Yeah, I can understand that, and you make a lot of great points with there. First off, yeah, I'm a fan of Oba as well. Won't lie, I'm doing that entrance dance along with him, usually in the living room. I'm not going to hold back on that one. But at the same time, like you said, there's a different perspective looking at this match now. Briggs made it interesting. You said you have a thought, so you're not going to take it from Ed. I think I may share the same thought. I don't know yet, but if you have that thought, bring it out and let's see what you've got to say and see if I agree.
I think Briggs is turning heel this week. I think this pay-per-view, Briggs is going to lose Inamura is going to lose this match because Briggs is going to make sure he doesn't. I think that Inamura is going to be close to winning, probably doing that bouncy splash that he likes to do. And I think Briggs is grabbing his ankle and making sure that he doesn't hit that jump. Also remember that there's a history between Oba and Briggs from Stand and Deliver the year prior, where Obafemi's match of the year came from, when it was Briggs, Dijak, and Obafemi, which was NXT's match of the year in 2024. So he's not so unused to these bigger style guys. Also, I was just thinking about this when we were talking about returns and debuts. Last night we saw in the video package, Marufuji was in that video package. Is there a chance that NXT snags Marufuji for a short run to defend Inamura in some kind of a storyline? Or do we get somebody from AAA? Because we all know about, after coming out of Worlds Collide, that we had Mr. Iguana, we had Octagon, we had, multiple people who everybody adored coming out of that. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one of those guys pops up. We talked, actually, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, about Obafemi's championship defenses. And we were like, he's had a really tough run of there not being a top male heel at the top of this division since he won this title in January, because there's just nobody for him to fight, because WWE doesn't have that top evil heel in NXT right now. Trick was the only guy, and now Trick's off doing something else because they've gotten everything they can out of that. I think at this point, Obafemi is going to build his resume. He's going to continue to endure these tests. A Miles Bourne, a Jasper Troy, and now Yoshiki Inamura. These are 3 unique tests for Obafemi. A young guy who wrestles a lot like a Randy Orton, who looks like a Randy Orton, but needs somebody to help lead him through. A Jasper Troy who's fresh off LFG, who needs to be led by the hand through all of these, and has had a rocket strap to his behind, and they're doing a great job with it. And that Oba versus Jasper Troy match on TV was really good, considering the big thing went wrong when those ropes broke, and you could tell they weren't planning on that. And they managed to, for 2 young guys, because let's remember, Obafemi's 3-4 years in this business. They managed to pull off a TV main event pretty well after that second rope broke in that Jasper Troy match. And now you got Inamura, who's more of a veteran, but still, like NXT said, coming from that Japanese style and that Noah style, there's going to be something new and unique for him to deal with. But Oba's always kind of dealt well with that. When it was that North American title run, it was everybody and anybody. And he dealt with all those styles with a level of talent that I don't think any of us ever thought he had. Because the first thing that I remember from this guy is he threw a couch. Like, they had a video package of this guy throwing a couch, and he's like, that's my guy. I want to see more of the guy who's picking up and throwing couches. Because we've all tried to move, and it takes like 4 of us to lift a couch and, get it where we need it to go in the house. And this dude's just chucking it 5 yards. And I'm just like, if a dude can throw a couch like that, he needs to be a great professional wrestler, and he's mine. So
he doesn't even
I'm just
pivot.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just to say he doesn't even need to pivot. Something I would need to do.
No pivot. He just lifts it straight up and just pushes it up the stairs.
The man, he's the main man. To be fair, I share a lot of your love, Brendan Moore. I think that he's really he's grabbed the hearts of a lot of NXT fans, and it's great to see him get a breakout opportunity, obviously. And I agree with you with the foot pulling on the top rope. And I mean, obviously Briggs has got the motivation as well for this heel turn, because Inamura left him before thinking he'd let him down, and Briggs will just say that you left me high and dry. I was on my own. Like, I had to figure things out for myself until you decided to show back up. And it's like, I think that's enough to justify that heel turn. Obviously, he knows he can't get the job done of winning a world title either. So why would he want his teammate to do better than him? Probably could come a little bit stemming from that brief feud we had with the Culling with Josh Briggs not too long ago. But I'm gonna agree Obafemi to retain the title here. Is there any final words anyone wants to say, or anything they want to add before we move on? NXT, we'll start with you.
No, I mean, I'm going to say Obafemi retains as well. I think the guy's just on a roll. His run as champion is almost like Asuka was back in the day, where she was going undefeated. And yeah, they've got to really build someone special to take this title off of this guy, whether it be Josh Briggs. I mean, look, I'm all for it. Josh Briggs is a guy that's been there for so long that the guy almost deserves it. And obviously going through breaking up his tag team, and then this new tag team that he's formed with Inamura. Hey, they need a brand, like Ed said, they need a big new heel, and Josh Briggs could be that guy.
He certainly has got the potential to do so. Astrid, any final words on this match before we move on?
Yeah, this is something that Ed was talking about a little bit earlier, that it was that same night that they kind of gave the promo with JC and all the girls came out. And I remember telling during taking over, I said, you could see the lineup of girls that you can pick from anywhere to challenge JC, and either way it would be fine. But if you were to try to pull up the same thing with Obafemi, it wouldn't work out, because it would be like nobody, like basically on cue to be that opponent for him. And I feel like in the end, this title reign, I love it, but I don't love the fact that it's been lackluster in the sense of like, we don't know who's going to be his next opponent. You don't think of anybody that could be the next person in line, because they don't have anybody built up enough to be that opponent for him next. I feel like now with the situation with Briggs, he could be the next one. But if anything, aside from that, there's really nobody else. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say sad because it feels weird to say that, but I think that you have somebody as talented as Oba, but you have nobody to really like make him look like a credible champion at the moment. You got to start thinking of who could be the next person, and they don't have that.
No, I feel that as well. That's why I kind of questioned at the start of the video, like, it's nice that Ethan Page has been in the North American Championship picture, but he's a heel. He naturally could just fit in that space in the meantime if you need to. Of course, you need to establish new names, but sometimes you need that sort of big marquee match as well here and there. But I appreciate what Ed has said earlier on as well. The versatility Oba's had to be showing, working with so many different types of performers from different backgrounds and obviously different experience levels, it really helps a champion get to that next level. So even if it's not necessarily always, let's say, the Billboard marquee headline match, they're getting what they need out of Obafemi. And when he goes to a main roster, a Raw or a SmackDown, hell, debut in the Rumble, the dude's going to be ready and he's going to be impressive, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying for a while, probably about a year or so now, Obafemi is everything WWE wished Omos could be. He's their Nigerian giant that they wanted Omos to be. The fans love him. He's good in the ring. He can work with anybody, and he can actually talk on the microphone. Like, his promos aren't, oh my God. They're not, oh my God, great promos. But he can cut an absolutely perfectly fine promo and then just kind of move on to what he needs to do. As for guys to take him out, I still look at Javon. I think Javon Evans is that next guy. And I think if you can build up heel people from here to there, and I think you can build, that's where you build the Ethan Page. That's where you build the Josh Briggs. And I think that's what you do. So I think you keep rolling Oba just a little bit longer. You keep building these slightly smaller heels that can take on a guy like Javon a whole lot more easily than they can take on a guy like Oba.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we saw Mike there saying that this match is going to be a lot more better than expected. Our local establishment, Oba will continue to retain until they're ready to call him up to main roster. He will either relinquish the title at that point, or to simply find option B to put that belt on. Perhaps maybe a multi-person match could be a sensible move. Liking that comment, indeed. We'll move on in the meantime, but it's been great talking about Oba versus Inamura, and we heard a minute ago there about liking the idea of Javon Evans. So let's talk about Javon Evans as he will take on one Jasper Troy. Someone's had a mention already in this stream, because Jasper Troy, winning LFG, has pretty much decided he wants to make a splash and make a name for himself. He's gone for the biggest dog in the yard, Obafemi. Didn't get the job done on first occasion, decided then to go for the championship again, lost the number one contenders match to Inamura, but of course he lost that match as well, and he's continued to destroy Javon Evans. I'm going to come to Astrid first on this one. Your thoughts with Jasper Troy so far? How has he been fitting into NXT for you? Are you enjoying the idea of the prospect of this match with Javon Evans this weekend?
Yeah, I've been loving the presentation they have with him so far, especially compared to Tyra. I feel like Tyra, we only see her once in one show, one backstage segment in one match, and she's been gone. Versus him, he's been featured on a weekly basis, like very consistently. And I like the way they have brought him up, like the way he made just that impact of going for the champion right away on the first night there. It's like you can't do any better than that, to be honest. And even with him losing, you can still see him booked strongly with everything he's doing right now with Javon Evans as well. And I'm enjoying what they're doing with him. I don't know who figured out what the character was going to be like, but I'm glad they did, because they're doing really well with him. Really looking forward to the match in itself, just because it's two different styles, with that high flying versus the power style that we get from Jasper here. The thing's like I'm stuck on the winner though. I feel like I would pick Jasper to win, just because I feel like he should be booked strongly to continue on what he's been doing so far. I feel like it's too soon to have another loss after he just lost to Obafemi there as well. I feel like having two losses back to back on big shows, it shouldn't be a thing for him at the moment right now. But again, looking forward to whatever they decide to do, because I know him and Javon definitely going to have great chemistry.
Yeah, I imagine so as well. I mean, Javon Evans is one of my favorites in NXT as well. He's just wowed me with some of his specialist PLE performances that he has. And this is an opportunity to have another stand-up match with someone who's very inexperienced, but like you said, there's quite a splash so far since coming in. Certainly got a lot of potential. Look, if you're the Undertaker student, if I'm not mistaken, on LFG, and you win that show, your future's gonna be taken care of. I think you're gonna do all right. For me though, I do feel Jasper Troy, if he continues to be around the NXT Championship picture for me, I do feel it's too soon for myself personally. I can see that maybe he could be overexposed if it continues to be in that way. But the fact that now he's working with other talent, and someone like Javon Evans, who's a very polished and solid worker as well, especially at such a young age. Also, this could be the perfect opponent for Jasper to get that momentum back here going to Great American Bash, Ed.
Yeah, I would probably have Jasper Troy go over here over Javon Evans. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. Javon brings up the best of his opponents, and I think people forget how long he's been doing this because of how young he is. But he's used to working with people who of varying experience levels, being on the indies, never knowing from one night to the next who you're going to face. And he does such a good job of being a toy for the bigger guys to throw around. So I think it's going to be real interesting to do that. But I would have Jasper win here. I'd have him challenge Oba one more time, and then push him down to the North American title scene, where you can kind of, have a babyface eventually beat Ethan Page, and then boom, there's Jasper Troy ready to make an impact in that North American Championship scene. Could be a lot of fun to do that.
That would almost be a similar path to Oba as well, because Oba obviously had that run with the North American Championship and dominated for a while, got that experience behind him, got that momentum, and then when the time was right, they pushed him to that top level, and that certainly could be a way they could go with that, Nick Steve.
No, I mean, there's not much I can add to what Astrid and Ed have already just said. Everything sounds plausible. Jasper Troy should be winning this. He should be going into that North American scene. He should be facing either Ethan Page or Ricky Saints for that title. It's kind of what NXT do when they bring some of these new guys in. They always have an NXT Championship match. They always lose it, then they always drop down to the NXT North American Championship scene where they win that and then they get a run with it. And it's kind of just sort of a NXT 101, you know what I mean? It's what they do. So there's not really much I can add, but I'm going to go the same and say Jasper Troy should win this.
I mean, I've got less to say because everyone's covered everything, it feels, at this point.
Yeah.
But look, Jonathan Evans doesn't get hurt by the loss either. Jasper Troy's lost a couple of matches, so he needs this more. It's also a bigger platform than when Jasper Troy has lost in the past. It's a PLE, so people will start focusing more on the PLE records after a few months as well. So, yeah, I think Jasper Troy wins this match here. And, I think everybody technically wins all round unless you're Javon Evans on the night. But like I say, he doesn't get harmed in this either. Mike here says that Jasper Troy has potential, but it's too soon for him to be a top guy. Maybe in a year it changes. He can be a top guy. Should be a slow build and not forced. Fair on that one. I would say it doesn't need to be forced.
I think if LFG was bigger and it had more of a following, I think then there would be an opportunity for him to come in and be a top guy straight away. But obviously LFG's in its infancy, so it's kind of like it's a bit hard to do that at the minute.
Absolutely. Obviously, being on the other side of the pond, Astrid, Ed, either one of you, how is it ratings-wise in the States? Has it done all right? Do we know?
I've not watched a single episode of this show. Not a single episode. And season 2 just started, and I'm like, clips?
Yeah, clips on social media.
Seems fair. It seems fair. It feels like the NXT season's all over again, doesn't it? Not quite tough enough at this point, but hey, maybe it might get round to that. Our local establishment, if you want John Evans to be a top guy, then he needs the win. Jasper Newton can recover from losses to top guys. I'm going with Javon on this one. I'd see a different perspective on it. I can see it. I can respect it. It doesn't change my pick, but I totally see where he's coming from.
I think for me, Javon, like you said, Javon can't be hurt from this, but I think look, I'm going to throw something crazy here. Put Javon in TNA, give him matches against Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander, bringing some of that 205 magic. Javon Evans will flourish in that division. Like in those matches, sorry.
I would love to see it. I wouldn't be against either of those matches if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just say we have a lot of comments about the women's tag team match. Just so people know we're not ignoring those. It's our main event. And do you know what? I feel like now there was a reason we made it main event because clearly a lot of interest is going in with Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace as a team against Fatal Influence. But you've got to be patient because in the meantime, we mentioned if Jasper Troy wins this, it might move him into the North American Championship picture. So it's a natural progression, folks. Falls count anywhere. Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page. funnily enough, I mean, as you said, these two work really, really well together. For me, I kind of get flashbacks of like, I feel very like Rock versus Triple H, like 1998 vibes when I see these two wrestle. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it where it's like, it feels like it fits for me. Looking forward to this one. Ricky Saints obviously won the first match between these two at Stand and Deliver. Ethan Page would later go on to win the North American Championship. I want to say it was the NXT after Battleground. I can't fully remember.
I got it mixed up earlier. They didn't have a match at Battleground. It was Stand Deliver, I meant to say earlier.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. And obviously now Ricky Saints has had to run through the gauntlets, the Vanity Project Tour. One of my least favorite things about NXT. Sorry, I've been a bit salty in a couple of things NXT. I am not feeling it at the moment. I'm sorry. I see Ed is offended. Astrid is cheering. Astrid, I'm on your side. It's not for me. I'm swiping left.
Me too.
If you don't like them, it just means they're doing their job right.
Yeah.
I'm so hurt. Well, Ricky Smokes, I'm literally going to see Ricky Smokes tomorrow night. Friday night. Like he's going to be here to local indie. He came up in this independent organization, Chaotic Wrestling, that I watch. He was at their training school. I'm going to see him in a fantastic match. I thought he did great the other night. These are Ethan Page and his dickhead children, because all three of them are the epitome of dickheads. And each one is progressively more annoying than the other, because you start with Brad Baylor, who's just like, we're going to ignore you. You're just an annoying Chad. And then you get to Ricky Smokes, who has all the talent in the world, and you just want to punch him in the face. And then he evolves into Jackson Drake, the Evolved Champion, who is just the most punchable man in that group. Because you just look at him and you're like, I just need to punch you in the face. The one thing I feel is bad here is this Vanity Project is getting such a heavy push, and poor Zeta Steele is left on Evolve all by herself. Her and Bryce Donovan are getting no push for this during this whole Vanity Project thing. Ethan Page gets out of this like a rat somehow, because Ricky Saints picks a Falls Count Anywhere match where the Vanity Project can interfere, as opposed to a steel cage, which would theoretically, at least potentially, keep them out of the match, which is what I would have done, which is what I thought they were going to do. I'm like, you do the gauntlet match to involve the Vanity Project, and then you do the steel cage to keep them out. Either way, this will be a fun match. I'm just hoping for an evolution from Ricky Saints, because Astrid and I talk about it on a weekly basis. A lot of Ricky Saints matches feel very samesies. They have a very similar build to them, where it's like both guys go back and forth. Ricky gets put on the back burner. They target a limb, whatever limb they decide to do, it'll be in that match. In this one, it'll obviously be the throat again. And then Ricky Saints out of nowhere hits the Rochambeau. Boom, end of story. Match is over, and it's a really good, serviceable 10-minute match. I just want something more, something better. I want something to evolve from this for Ricky Saints, so he can have a slightly different match. Otherwise, this is going to be a fun match. It'll be a good match to have, hopefully, during the middle of the card. As we come up, we come down from all the other things. But it's not a match that I'm dying to see, especially for a third time.
Understandable. And to be fair, you make a good point that the intelligent babyface picks a stipulation where he could get jumped 4-on-1 and it's completely legal. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But hey, that's what babyfaces do, I guess, in pro wrestling. We've been used to this since day one of time, haven't we?
I'm just going to answer the thing in the chat. Pierre, Zeta is Zeta Steele. Zeta Steele she was the first person signed to the WID program. She is an incredibly talented young lady who has wrestled in Japan and Marigold. She has wrestled for a few other Japanese promotions during her very short career. I think it's almost 2, maybe 3 years. She was in the NWA, if I remember correctly, too. I don't know. Ashley would know more about the exact locations because she interviewed her before she went to Marigold.
She
Yeah,
has
she
got quite a
teased me
bit of
about it.
experience.
MLW, that's the one.
Yeah, I was about to say it's MLW and GCW as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I interviewed her a little bit before the Mari Gold announcement. I remember I asked her where she would like to wrestle next, and she said Japan with a big exclamation point. And then the announcement came up, and I was like, I should have noticed. That's what she was trying to tell me the whole time. So after the announcement, I messaged her and I said, "That's what you meant, didn't you?" She goes, "Yeah, I couldn't say anything." So no, she's been doing great things. I feel like she's all over the place, to be honest. So if you haven't checked her out, please do. She's so talented. I adore her as a heel. And every time I see Vanity Project, I'm just waiting for that moment we see that tiny little lady next to them, but we haven't yet. So I don't care for them right now until I see her. So
We have to be patient, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of her work because I've seen a big splash of her when it seems with social media, a bit of buzz, especially when she was signed to the ID as well. I haven't seen too much of her work, so I'm looking forward to seeing the opportunity when she does get that call up of some description. But NXT, back on to Ricky Saints and Ethan Page. God, my memory. What's your thoughts here with these two wrestling up for a third time? It seems like it's the rubber match. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it was just the fact that they have to build off of the standard, like Stand and Deliver is the NXT WrestleMania equivalent, and for me, it was the most underwhelming match of that card. And I was kind of like, I feel these two should have had a better match. So for me, this one, just in terms, has to be a better match overall. Like, I think I gave like a 2.5 when we did a review of it. And I was like, it's an okay match, but I want something more. Now, the fact that you add in the stipulation of no holds barred, the numbers game surely will play a factor for Ricky Saints. And I just, like I said, I hope it builds on the last one. The hardest one is kind of predicting the result with this, because obviously a hot potato in a title isn't really a thing anymore. But I feel like if Ricky Saints picks this up, which I'm going to go with it just on the pure basis that I want Ethan Page to go up to main roster because that guy's so main roster ready. Yeah, that's the only thing, is that North American title's kind of been hot potato over the last year. There's like no one's had like a long enough run. Like obviously Ethan Page, when he won it first time round, he only had it for a short period of time before the next person won it. So yeah, there's just the hot potato factor. But I think Saints will win this, and I just really want Ethan Page to go up and do whatever, be part of Seth's group, whatever, man. But I want that guy on main roster.
Fair play to that one, Astrid.
yeah, for me, it's one of those that I laughed a little bit when he said the stipulation, because I kept thinking, why would you pick something that doesn't go in your favor from your perspective, at least? Because at least Ethan has backup and you don't. I think it would be cool if he ended up having some kind of backup later on against Ethan, of people that are just irritated with Ethan at this point and decided to support Ricky instead. But yeah, I'm hoping this match is a little bit more. It has more of a highlight to it than the usual matches. I feel like the usual matches, like, they have great chemistry, but I feel like I need something else to like make it stand out a little bit more, and that's what I need from this match in itself. So I'm looking forward to it in that aspect of it. I do hope Ricky wins this, or if he doesn't, then I just hope he's main roster bound at this point if he does lose, because I don't know what else you could do with him since you have Oba Femi as NXT champion. If you didn't have anybody that wasn't Oba, then I would have been like, okay, you can put him in the main title picture. But if you're gonna put him there and it's gonna be somebody against like Oba, then he's not gonna win it for any time soon. So that's why I'm really torn about what's going to happen with Ricky moving forward. So I think the result of this match is probably going to tell us a little bit more into what's going to happen with him next. So that's the part I'm looking forward to the most.
Sounds interesting. Mike suggesting, could you see him being a part of Seth's faction?
I hope so.
Maybe. I don't see either of them in that faction. But then again, I still don't understand why Bronson Reed is there either. So, wrestling.
Yeah.
He's the Batista, it feels, of Evolution. It feels if I'm going to do a callback to an old faction.
Ethan Page is the Randy Orton. I'm telling you, Ethan Page is the Randy Orton of that group.
Mm-hmm.
What about Braun Breaker? I thought Braun Breaker was the Randy Orton and Batista.
He's Ric Flair.
Oh, he's Ric Flair. That makes sense. Never mind.
Fair enough. Braun, to be fair, just off topic, Braun, a real breakout moment this past Monday on Raw was amazing. I would love to see Ricky a part of that group. I'd love to see even Page part of that group also. I think that there could be one more name that would be good to be, and either of those two could be. Could this be a sign of someone getting a call up with the loser of this match? Time we'll have to wait and see on this one. So far, as she said, she's keen to see what happens next with Ricky Saints. NXT thinks he's walking away with the championship. Ed, where do you stand? Obviously, you talked about Jasper Troy potentially being a future North American champion.
I think it's Ethan Page right here, and I think somebody else might take the title from him. The story seems tailor-made for Saints to overcome and win, but I don't understand why you do the Jimbo Jabble or the hot potato if that's the case. It's like, if you're gonna hot potato the title, you need to have a reason, and I don't see the why to the hot potato. So we'll see. I'll go with Ethan for now, though. To make
Just a
Asher
quick
happy.
question: Is there anyone Vanity Project have been like rival? Because I've not watched Evolve. Is there anyone that they've been kind of doing the numbers against, where like essentially you could see Ricky Saints calling someone from Evolve to come up and help him in that numbers game?
Sean Legacy would be the first name that I would think of from that.
It's great.
He was in the triple threat match that was on NXT.
Evolve
He had the shot against Ethan. He was in the triple threat for Evolve Championship. He's another heavy player in that Vanity Project stuff that's going on there. So yeah, I mean, I think if he's going to call anybody, I think Sean Legacy would be at the top of that list. It'd be fun if he called him like a Keanu Carver. He's just a big dude, but then again, he's the one who runs his mouth about the Samoans on Twitter, so I don't know how popular he is backstage.
It's the only reason I know who he is because I've seen his actions on social media. Yeah, that says something there for you. I'm going to agree with the consensus of that. I think Ethan Page here. Just my main reason for thinking it is that Ricky Saints is the one on the Go Home show that went through the gauntlet, has picked the stipulation, and since the fact he's the one that's picked the stipulation, it doesn't always work in their favor when they do that. So for that reason, I think Ethan Page is going to retain here. I can see Saints being a future contender for Over before being called up to a Raw or a SmackDown, but I'm sure whatever happens, a Raw or SmackDown will be in his future. Any final words, NXT, Steve, or before we move on?
Mate. Go for
Ed,
it, mate.
no. Well, I can tell you very quickly before we move on. I'll talk about the Vanity Project. Got a lot of buzz in the comments section. They got talking about it quite quickly. Our local establishment, great punchable jerks was what was given here. Right here saying that didn't see Ricky Saints winning. It seemed getting called up to the main roster. Pierre thought this is a match that potentially could steal the show. Luis, punchable faces, clearly seeing that here as well. So, yeah, it got quite a bit of buzz from quite a few of our viewers here. But we're going to move on in the meantime, and we're going to talk about one North American Championship. Let's talk about another. Let's talk about the Women's North American Championship. Sol Ruka will be going against Izzy Dane. And, of course, there's been, well, some interesting stuff going on here with Sol Ruka and Izzy Dane, mainly revolving around Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley, of course, is someone that was having a lot of friends in NXT, and she lost all of them. They all got released, unfortunately, from the company, and she's been a little bit lost. Zarya and Sol have kind of been there, but haven't really been the nicest about it either at the same time. And Izzy has been kind of cutthroat for the culling, getting rid of Brooks Jensen and seeing a young, vulnerable Tatum Paxley that could fill the spot. Or maybe she's completely genuine. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating what I see on TV. Astrid, I'm coming to you first. Sol Ruka, Izzy Dane, how are you feeling with this one? How do you see it playing out?
For me, the way I'm hoping it happens is that I'm hoping that Sol retains, because the person I want to dethrone her is Zarya. That's the story that I want right there. You know, the way we have been building up to, and the way that Zarya just keeps staring at that title every time they're together. That's the person. So I was like, I will find a way for Zarya to help Sol Ruka to retain the championship if possible, if Sol isn't able to do it by herself, just because Zarya is the one that's going to say, I want to do it for myself against her, if anything. And that's the only thing I can see playing out from my perspective, at least. I don't know, Tatum being involved in there. Tatum's not the person to like really cheat. So I feel like Izzy could be that person to be like, hey, can you help me out? And then I don't think Tatum will really do anything because she's not that kind of person. So I think I could see something like that kind of playing out at ringside as well, with Tatum accompanying Izzy. But I have Sol retaining for this one.
I agree with absolutely everything you've just said. I'm going to save everybody time to give my prediction now. I agree with you. Soul to retain because Zarya should be the one to dethrone her. Zarya has natural heel vibes. And when that turn finally happens, I think she'll be a great women's North American champion in NXT. And like you mentioned there with Tatum Paxley, she's not the type to do the dirty work. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's short-lived with her and the culling. But so far, I am enjoying the dynamic of her being involved there. But NXT, Steve, your thoughts of Sol Ruka, Izzy Dane?
Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say Tatum Paxley is the reason Izzy Dane wins that North American Championship. I think that there's a reason why they put Tatum Paxley with Izzy Dane. I think Izzy Dane is going to use and abuse in a creative way to use Tatum Paxley to her advantage to win matches, win a North American Championship. So I'm going with Izzy Dane to win. Plus, as well, after NXT this week, who were the only two people that didn't get involved in the brawl? Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dane.
Very true. And I've got to say, I don't hate it and I'm not against it. And of course, Sol Ruka then would be going into Evolution without a title, looking to win women's tag team gold. Could seem more plausible that they could actually go and maybe win those tag team titles. I don't know. I'm just speculating. You already know my predictions if you've watched this channel already. We did them earlier tonight. Ed, your thoughts with Sol Ruka, Izzy Dane? It's 2-1 in Sol's favor right now. And where are you standing in this conversation?
So I could see this going either way. I think there are, like NXT said, there's a really good idea to do this. But can we just talk about how the culling has glowed up Izzy Dane? We used to talk about her on the show, and I used to be like, is it Carmen Petrovic or is it Izzy Dane? And the only way I could tell if it was Izzy Dane or not was, is she wearing green? Because that was the only difference between the two of them in my mind for the longest time. I could not tell the two of them apart. But the work that she's been doing with the culling, the way that her whole demeanor has changed, the upping of her game in the promos when she cuts those, pre-recorded cut promos in there, the work that she's doing with Tatum Paxley here, she deserves this championship. The storyline is for Sol Ruka to lose this to Zarya, to break everybody's heart, especially our friend Millie's heart, when Zarya turns on Sol Ruka. So I think Sol wins. But let's also not forget, even if Sol loses this match and loses this championship, unless she lost the match to Alba Fire, which was recorded last night at NXT, she still does have the Speed Championship.
True.
But yeah, if I was pushed for an answer, I think it's Sol that wins. But I want Izzy to win because I want something good to happen for her, because I think she's leveled up so much with working with Sean Spears. And I think of everybody, she's the one that's getting all of the benefit of this culling. And that's the point of a group with a guy like Sean Spears. At his age, at his experience level in this business, his job is to make sure that he's getting somebody else in this group up another level. And they've been successful with Izzy Dane, and the work with Tatum Paxley, and especially Zarya keep talking about how she keeps having to kidnap her and put her in the naughty bin because she keeps being a bad girl. It's just so much fun. So much fun. I love all four of these people in this feud, and no outcome is bad.
Do you know what? I love everything that's just been said there. And to be honest, I have to agree as well. Izzy Dane has been the MVP when it comes to the culling. The way that she's almost like the forefront of this group now. She's really, like I said, gone levels up. And she's gone from being someone that's just involved in the match to now being in the conversation of winning these big matches when she goes onto PLEs as well. So massive credit to her for that. And like you say, she'll be a part of the Evolution card as well. But let's dive into some comments here. Mike here saying that wild prediction, Zarya's interference and backfires, and it costs Sol the women's North American title. Sol snaps and is the one that turns heel. That would be a very interesting twist. I think a lot of us feel that Zarya would be the one. NXT, Steve, would you like to see a heel Sol Ruka?
Why not? I think everyone's expecting Zarya, and do you know, everyone loves it when we get something completely different. So I'd be for it.
Absolutely, Ed.
I would love a heel Sol Ruka. For the meager thing is, I think in NXT, I think everybody in NXT should have a run as a babyface and have a run as a heel, so that when we get you to the main roster, we know what your strengths are, what what you lack in. Because we're seeing with this Kalani Jordan thing, it's like she's got all the great tendencies to be a really good heel, But then she smiles way too much to be an efficient heel. We spent 5 minutes talking about it, how she came back from Hawaii this week, and all of a sudden she's a babyface again, and she can't stop ssmiling because her and Carmella got engaged. So it's just like, I'm like, how did she become a babyface again? She's been turning heel for, the better part of 3 months, and all of a sudden she's like, nope, I'm a good guy. And I'm like, no, stay in your lane, Kalani. But I think it'd be so much fun to see Soul to try it. Because we saw Bayley as the babyface forever. And we're like, there was legitimate questions on podcasts like these, on our shows, on things like this. Can Bayley effectively turn heel? Can she be an effective heel? She showed she can. And I think everybody should now try that in NXT just to see how it comes off.
Yeah, it's a great shout. And like you say, you know the strengths, you know the weaknesses, and you know how to push people going forward when they go to a Raw and SmackDown. Can't argue with that at all. Certainly would be quite fun and interesting. Astrid, I don't think I asked you on if you would be in favor of a Soul Ruka heel turn.
I wouldn't mind it. Like everybody was saying, it's one of those things like I wouldn't mind seeing it just to see how she goes with it and how she runs with it, how different her character could be as a heel as well. Because she's one of the people like the crowd really gravitated towards her, so she's been almost like an automatic babyface since she arrived. So I think it'll be interesting to see her as a heel and then see how Zarya as a face instead, and see how that kind of goes around, and it's a little bit of that the 360 there. So I think it would be something interesting that they could kind of build up with her. And I feel like you don't see a lot of heels right now on the women's side of it. So it's like that would be something that we could see that would be unexpected in that sort of way too. I feel like NXT sometimes can swerve us in that way too.
Absolutely, certainly has indeed in the past there. I mean, one that recently comes to mind is Wesley being the one to turn heel on the Rascals, where it felt it could have been quite clear it was going to be the other way around at one point. But nope, it was Wesley that did the dirt. Paul asking the question, going to go around the table quickly and get everyone's favorite male and female NXT wrestlers right now. NXT, I'll start with you.
Obafemi for a male, Obafemi from Page, either one, and then for a female, I'm going to say Thea Hale. I love Thea Hale. I want to see more of Thea Hale. I think she's just this little bundle of fire that just needs to be given the world, and she, for me, just push her, man. Just stick a title on her, stick a North American Championship on her.
Absolutely. Astrid.
Oh my word, I feel it's gonna be difficult to pick just one person. I'll say one of my favorites, not particularly just that one, but one of my favorites for the guys is Ethan Page. For the girls, it's kind of hard to pick because one of my top favorites was Roxanne, and she's no longer in NXT right now. I would say Jordan Grace is one of my top ones too.
I like it. Ed.
Obafemi and Tatum Paxley. I adore the change in Tatum Paxley ever since she stopped the Ivy Nile stuff. She's just been so different, especially in the ring. And I think a lot of that has to do with Javi and their relationship blossoming at that point in time.
Absolutely. For me, male Ethan Page, love his character work, and I think he had a great run as NXT champion. Obafemi, though, is a very close second, but yeah, female for me, Kalani Jordan. I just think she's just phenomenal in ring. She has a lot of influence of RVD, one of my favorites of all time, so it would be criminal for me not to pick her, really, wouldn't it? But yeah, and you mentioned Thea Hale. Ray says, disappointed Thea Hale, not got a match. Favorite NXT women's wrestler for you there. And Sid asking, do we think any TNA wrestlers will show up here? We've had suggestions of Matt Cardona and Mash Slamovich earlier in the stream. Feel free to rewind and go and check that out. But you mentioned TNA. Well, we are guaranteed two of them. We got a contract signing taking place here for the main event, the Slammiversary. Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, Mike Santana. Kind of probably hard to speculate too much what's going to happen here. Maybe someone goes through a table. Maybe there's a bit of warfare with NXT and TNA. I'm not sure, but that's why I'm going to go around the table and see what people are saying. But Ed, I'm going to come to you first, because do you think we might get anything spicy from this contract signing? And perhaps more importantly, give us that early prediction then for Slammiversary.
I've been saying on Taking Over since before the Trick Williams Joe Hendry title match that I thought that Trick was going to win the title and that Mike Santana would take it back at either Bound for Glory or Slammiversary. Slammiversary makes sense since it's in New York, where he's from. I think Santana wins this. I don't think we get anything too crazy here. We talked about this last night on the show, that this being on the PLE doesn't make a lot of sense, except for the fact that this is why TNA entered the partnership with NXT. is to have things like this on a stage like this, where you're going to get so many WWE eyeballs this weekend on all three shows, that TNA is going to get the publicity that they need for letting people like Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry and potentially Mike Santana walk as soon as these contracts are, and just walk across the hall over to NXT and sign WWE contracts. We've seen Jordan Grace do it. We all expect that Joe Hendry, as soon as his contract expires, will probably do the same. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Mike Santana does too, because WWE seems to like what they're getting from him. I think this is exactly what TNA wanted and needed from this partnership, and why this partnership is so great is that we're bringing in a TNA focus onto one of the bigger stages on a premium live event for WWE, to have TNA getting the spotlight.
Absolutely, yeah, totally, indeed. Astrid, I'm going to move on to you next now, if you agree with everything that's has been said from Ed. There. Obviously, he's gone with Mike Santana there, and like you said, it's been great for the partnership so far. It really has worked for all parties.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I could see Mike winning that championship in New York in Slammiversary. I feel like that could be his crowning moment for the build he has since he returned to TNA. For the contract signing in itself, the only thing I could kind of see happening will be Trick going through a table, and then Joe Hendry and Santana working together make that happen, and they're just staring at each other of like, one of us is gonna bring it back home kind of situation, and hopefully, and even though I like both of them, my hope is for Santana to win this one though.
Totally, indeed. NXT Steve.
I'm glad Ed and Astrid believe that TNA books hometown heroes like WWE does, saying that Mike Santana is going to win in New York, because if it was WWE, that wouldn't be happening. But just to piggyback off what they've been saying, just to back off what Ed said originally, this is massive for TNA. They are, I believe, they are in the midst of trying to organize a brand new TV deal, which, again, this is something they need. And then just to piggyback off what Astrid said, Trick Williams goes for a table here. You have Santana and Joe Hendry stand tall. Another reason, because again, they're still looking for a new TV deal. It's up on a premium live event. This is bits for TNA here. And as well, the triple threat is a clever way for Trick Williams to lose that title without actually being pinned.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's said it all already. So piggyback, I agree with Ed, and it's my most successful TikTok I've ever done. And it was before Battleground, and it was the idea of who should win the title, because Trick Williams will do it. Mike Santana. I think it's intelligent, as NXT just said, to have the triple threat match for that reason. Trick doesn't have to take the pinfall. You've all said about how it's great for the partnership with TNA, the exposure, the platform this has got. This is going to be fantastic for TNA, perhaps for a pay-per-view buy rate. And like if NXT said, it can help them as well then to present those numbers and say, look, give us a better TV deal. We could be on a stronger platform. Maybe we can be the number 2 wrestling company out there. Not saying it will necessarily happen, but hey, it's put some evidence forward that they may want to do so. And as Astrid said there, probably the best thing for contract signing is to have the 2 TNA guys have a stare down at the end, because one of them are walking away as champion, but which one will it be? So yeah, loving what everyone's had to say there. Loving the work all round. But Sid here saying that Mike Santana is the best thing in TNA, and NXT give Mike Santana run as TNA champion. Well, I think TNA will give that ultimate decision probably when it comes to Slammiversary, but hey, you never know what might happen. Ray says, would you like to see Hometown Man, aka Cody Deaner, show up from TNA? Astrid, I know you're more into TNA than I am at this particular moment. Would Cody Deaner be someone to be great to see in TNA at some point?
I don't know, as I haven't seen much of him recently, so I don't know if I will have him show up right now. I don't know if he'll make that. I was going to say that impact, as you would like to call it, but I don't know. Maybe.
Have to wait and see. Ed?
Sure, Cody Deaner's fine, I guess. But sure. I mean, there's a list of guys I'd take before Cody Deaner, but sure, why not?
Sure. NXT.
I think there's more chance of someone from AAA turning up like a Mr. Iguana. You want to get a pop, Mr. Iguana, have that guy show up, and you know what I mean? He'll push for your figuureship just on his appearance. But like I said, I think we're more likely to get someone like that. Maybe a Vikingo, who knows?
The man's got an iguana. I want Mr. Iguana back. And also, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think it would be quite cool to have people from AAA come in. Cody Dean is cool. He's fine. I don't see where, how, why he would fit in, Ray, but love the suggestion nonetheless. We will move on though, because we have got one match left to talk about. And do you know what? We've got 1,000 comments in for them already. So I suppose we should probably talk about them. It is the women's tag team match and our main event of the stream today. It is the debuting Blake Monroe, formerly known as Mariah May in AEW, teaming with Jordan Grace. How will they coexist? They will be going against Fatal Influence, of course, JC Jane, the NXT Women's Champion, and Fallon Henley. We see Jasmine Nix will probably be there on the outside. Of course, this is the preview before the match that takes place at Evolution, of course, because we've got the NXT Women's Championship on the line. JC Jane will be defending that title against Jordan Grace. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, to say the very least. First and foremost, NXT, I'm going to come to you on this one. Are you enjoying Blake Monroe being in NXT so far? Are you liking the build of this tag team match? Yeah, give us your insights, please.
I mean, there obviously is a reason that Blake Monroe was brought in, and she has a presence, she has an aura, she has it in terms of character work. This, even though it's a tag team match, is an opportunity for her to show what she can do in ring. We've obviously discussed this a little while ago when we was doing the Evolution preview and predictions. This one is such a hard one to call in terms of who will win it, because of there's a story beat for the following day on what's going to happen with that one. I'm glad JC Jane has got a run with an NXT championship, because there was an initial shock factor when she won it. There is just there's this ultimate decision. Like, there's so many ways this match can go in terms of playing out in Evolution, playing out to Slammiversary, because we know where this NXT championship is going. It's just a case of who's going to have that title around their waist. I'm looking forward to it, just because we know what's going to happen with this title. We know what's going to happen going forward. And a lot of people are expecting Jordan Grace to possibly win this at Evolution, then go on to face Slammiversary for that Knockouts championship. I could easily see JC Jane retaining this. This is just the starting point of this story, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
Interesting stuff indeed. Astrid, I'm going to come to you then.
I've been really torn about how this is going to go, to be honest. But the first one that came to mind was the fact that we have a group like this team of Jordan here and Blake who just met, who are not even friends, they're just tag teaming here for the convenience of teaming against Fatal Influence. So thinking about that aspect of it, and I'm also thinking of the character work of Blake Monroe and Mariah from before. I'm used to seeing her in AEW and the way she was basically as a heel. So this kind of like goody two shoes kind of attitude, it doesn't fit her for me at the moment. So it makes me think of it could be kind of like a ruse to gain everybody's trust. She's a baby face, people love her, and then of a sudden she'll turn. So I wonder if she'll turn against Jordan here and have her lose that match in itself. Just thinking like she could be the next one in line after the whole Jordan and JC Jane thing is over. So that's why it's the only thing that I kind of came to mind about this. I don't know if I could see Jordan and Blake winning when this is the first time they team together. They don't know each other very well. They don't really match with each other, to be honest, in that aspect of it. And I feel like with Fatal Influence, there's a bigger story there. So I could see them winning this tag team match.
It'll be interesting indeed. Obviously, it was a very unique preparation for Jordan Grace this past Tuesday on NXT, rather than going through the usual carrying of things. Blake Monroe got her a taxi. I can't pick that up. I thought it was a real fun line, actually. And had a pampering session instead, which Grace admittedly said that she quite enjoyed. Ed, we have the debuting Blake. We have the Thrones again team with Grace, but we have the established Fatal Influence with the NXT Women's Championship, Evolution, Slammiversary, all in the pipeline. Oh, is this going to play out, my friend?
When we're talking about JC Jane winning the championship, it sits here next to me to remind me of poor decisions by me or by NXT. I went through way too much of this bottle the night JC Jane won that championship on screen. because I had to keep saying that JC Jane won the NXT championship. She is the most beatable champion, and she's kind of grown on me with it. Like that line from Lainey Reed is like the most. It's developing a storyline that could go for months into years. Like, this could be the beginning of an enormously long reign for JC Jane with this championship because of that one line of, you're the most beatable champion. And then she just continues to beat people left, right, and center until they bring in somebody to beat her. And it both is a good thing and scares the ever-living shit out of me that somebody who's been in NXT for the better part of 5 years is the one claiming that she's running this division. The Glamour Knots, as Blake called them last night, in a very throwaway line that I only caught when I rewatched it this afternoon. The Glamour Knots. I think win this because I think Jordan loses tomorrow. And then that goes back to a line that Corey Graves said about every time in the big match in NXT, Jordan Grace has come out on the losing end. And I think that there's a story there to turn Grace heel, to have her develop this much more serious, much more I'll do whatever it takes to win mentality, and to go up against, as I call them, because I refuse to call them Fatal Influence, Terrible Toxic, because they remind me of a bad knockoff version of Toxic Attraction.
You miss Mandy, don't you?
I mean, I always miss Mandy, but yes, more so with JC Jane being at the front of this group.
That's respectable. I can understand that. NXT, obviously, we've got a lot of thoughts and feelings here around the table with regards to this match. I will give my take on it in a minute because I've realized I've gone around the table once already. But let's get your picks.
I mean, I think I'm going to go with JC and Fallon to win it, even though it is Blake's debut. That everyone has to lose a match at some point, regardless. It's a tag match. It's an easy match that you can lose in your debut. And for me, I think Fallon and JC win. And I think tomorrow night, the following night at Evolution, I think Blake Monroe is going to cost Jordan Grace that title. Because I think Jordan needs to be protected when it comes, if she's going to lose that title match. As much as I'd like to see Masha Slamovich versus Jordan Grace at Slammiversary for those two titles, it's too easy to book, and I think it's lazy booking, and I want to see something different. I think if you have great, like I said this on the Evolution predictions, I think if you have Grace and Monroe have a rivalry for a little while, just keep Grace away from the NXT Women's Championship for a bit. You've then got the opportunity, so for JC Jane to go to have a couple more matches, go to Slammiversary, possibly lose to Masha Slamovich. You've then got an opportunity to do something else. But like Ed says, she's the most beatable champion. And like, hey, imagine JC Jane goes on a 2-year undefeated streak. It'd be fantastic. I'm well excited by that now.
With Roman Reigns like run of over 1,000
100%.
days,
Yes,
women's champion.
1,316 days just to outdo Roman by one extra day.
Absolutely, with the wise person in the corner of Jasmine Nix just calling the shots of how to get the job done.
100%.
Sorry, I'm seeing I'd have a meltdown here. That's why we're carrying on. I'm going to agree with a lot of what NXT has said here, purely on the basis that I think that there's going to be miscommunication. They're the team that don't know each other, Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace. So I think that there's going to be a bit of their chemistry's not there. And I think that they are from totally different backgrounds, totally different attitudes going into the match. And even though when it comes to Evolution, I have a different prediction to NXT, I've got Jordan Grace to win the title because I think that it's in Blake Monroe's interest at the start for that. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Monroe costs Jordan Grace later down the line. But I think that Blake will be unhappy that Grace has cost her a debut match because I think Grace will be the one that will take the pinfall on this show. I think it'll be JC Jane that will pin Jordan Grace here at the Great American Bash. But I think Grace will pin Jane at Evolution.
Just to add one more thing as well, I think that if you do have Grace and Monroe lose this, I think most people go with WWE logic booking and think Grace will win at Evolution and win that NXT championship. And I think if you have the spin that Monroe costs her, it adds more of a shock value to it as well. So it's not as obvious, and like I said, it's just different booking in general.
Certainly is indeed there. Astrid.
Yeah, I feel like this one is it's tough. It could go so many ways, and that's one of the things about the women's division NXT that I love the fact that it could be either way, and it still will be a great story. Yeah, I just see Jordan and Blake losing this. It just the fact that not only do we think of Jordan having that championship match, but Blake is going to want to put her eyes and her point of view on the championship at some point as well. And just thinking like Jordan has that championship and she doesn't. She's going to want to do something about that part of it. And we have Fatal Influence already. They have been teaming for a while. We got Jasmine as a factor outside as well, too. So that's why I keep thinking Jordan and Blake are going to lose it somehow.
Absolutely. Ed, any final words there before we enjoy the idea of a long title reign for JC Jane?
Well, maybe go get more alcohol. They're out to have dinner. No, I think... I'm going to go out on the limb here. I think Grace and Monroe win here, and I think then you do the JC Jane win because, like NXT said, lazy booking is Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich. It'll be a fun match, but I ranted about this last night. I don't want to see Grace versus Masha again. TNA ran this match into the ground for a period of time. As much as I would rather that match is a better match, I'd much rather JC Jane versus Masha Slamovich at Slammiversary just because it makes more sense. And like I said, I can see this feud, this JC Jane title reign. Oh, so sadly long. Oh my God, so long. I don't want it, but I can see it.
Can see it indeed, but
see, Steve. You said it best in when we were talking about Evolution, the fact that we've already had Trick win the TNA championship. There is an opportunity here for a TNA star to win an NXT championship, which is why Slamovich winning at Slammiversary against JC Jane is more of a thing as well.
It certainly is. And I think that's the question I put around the table then. Whoever wins and walks away with the strap after Evolution, whether it's Jane, whether it's Grace, who is going to hold all the gold? Is it going to be one of those two, or is it Masha Slamovich? Now, NXT, I know your thoughts after our Evolution predictions, but please remind everyone who's going to be the champion for you after Slammiversary, or double champion.
For me, do you know what? Just because I'm going to say it now, I reckon it's going to be JC Jane. I want JC Jane to be double champ. I think it's going to be great.
It's changed in an hour, ladies and gentlemen. It was Masha Slamovich an hour ago. Who at Slammiversary walks away double champion?
I've been stuck on this one just because I see in the title versus title, it sounds a little bit scary in that aspect of it too. And to me, it was either two options. Either we get Masha, and I feel like that would be great, not only for TNA, but for NXT as well, because Masha does a lot of indie bookings too. So that's a lot of more I see in both of the companies that she has both championships. But then the other option that I had was thinking, what if somebody interferes in the match and then the match ends up being a no DQ or no contest, so the champions keep their championships intact, and that way they kind of protect both champions at the same time. So I think depending on what happens this week is when I'll definitely choose which option out of the two of those. But I think those are the ones that are the top two in my mind so far.
That seems fair indeed there. Ed, any words? Is it Jane or is it Masha?
No, it's I subscribe to the theory of that it's going to be a no contest. Title versus title, I just feel like it brings too many chances of something bad happening, especially with Masha and her indie bookings. It just brings a lot of bad luck potential to have that. But if I had to say one of the two, either whoever wins the NXT championship or the TNA Knockouts champion, I think Masha comes out with that as a double champion, if we're going to have a double champion.
I think if this was a TNA show, and I'm going to pull a random one out of the hat here. Let's go final resolution or Victory Road, like, one of those B shows that's on Impact Plus that, has about 9 predictable matches out of 10. I would agree that probably the no contest makes a lot of sense. However, this is Slammiversary. How much would that crowd crap all over this if one of them isn't walking away with 2 belts here, Ed?
I agree. It's not. It's just doing double champions just it gives you so many bad chances, especially with trying to tell a story with TNA, who constantly batch books television, that if she's going to lose that TNA championship, you have to be very careful with how she comes around with the with the title when she's on NXT. And you've got to really bounce around the storylines. And that's why a double champion with NXT and TNA can potentially be such a dangerous proposition. And that's why I think that the no contest, which is going to get shit on by the fans, but then again, this is TNA, and if TNA can make a bad decision, they're going to TNA and make a bad decision. Remember, this is the company that had Jeff Jarrett beat champion how many times?
I've not got enough fingers. That's my problem. Not enough fingers to cover that one. I agree with you. Let's go to some comments then before we get some final thoughts and wrap things up for us here today. Mike says women's tag team match with Jordan, JC Jane should be the catalyst for Fallon Henley and JC Jane fallout. Fallon is better as a babyface. Blake shouldn't turn heel yet. Save it for later in 2025. And he goes on to say that Jordan needs to win the NXT Women's Title Evolution 2. Then they can do a slow burn Blake heel turn. When it happens, Blake needs to be heel on her own and not with JC Jane. Fair play to that. I'll go around the table. It could be like a yes and no. We can do it as a quick answer there for Mike's thing. Could we see the fallout this weekend with Fallon Henley and JC Jane and Steve?
No.
Not yet. Astrid?
No, I don't think so.
Ed?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I like it. So 2-1 there. I'm not against the idea of it happening. I think it will happen eventually, but I'm going to say not this weekend. My eyes are on Grace and Blake Monroe. I think that is the likely destination for it.
Everybody's eyes are on Blake Monroe. Let's not kid ourselves. Even Jordan. Did you see the photo that came up on Jordan's phone? Even her eyes are on Blake Monroe.
What's interesting is as a picture that came up on the call, really. I was like, that's an interesting choice of picture, isn't it?
Steve, do any of your friends have a photo like that as their caller ID photo on your phone? Because I know my phone doesn't have that.
Mine doesn't have that, no.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
I have one of my friends as a picture of a bin. Like when he calls me, a bin comes up. So yeah, I don't have nothing like that either.
Interesting.
He's a trash guy. I can't help it.
If he's watching now, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Roy says, apart from Grace versus Jane, has no interest in this show. Fair enough, but he says he likes TNA. Well, to be fair, we've talked a bit of TNA on this show, so hopefully it's still wet your palate enough watching this one. Just seeing if we've got any more comments here regarding this women's tag team match. I do feel like we'd seen more earlier on, but yeah, hang on. There we are. For those people that just want to watch Evolution 2, you need to see JC Jane entrance just for the music. Thinks that JC Jane's entrance or the Fatal Influence entrance is the best song made by Def Rebel. NXT, Steve, yes or no? Agree or disagree?
Definitely not. No, there are a lot of bad Def Rebel ones out there, but that is definitely not one of the best ones.
Astrid?
No, I definitely disagree.
Ed?
I still have the Toxic Attraction ringtone as my ringtone on my phone.
I love you, Ed. I absolutely adore you. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't hate the song. I quite like the song, but I don't think it's the best one they've done, but it's not a bad one. I'll give it that. So, yeah. And Millie C said here, the hatred seems to be needs to be really refilled there, Ed. Yeah.
It's running low.
It's running low. We'll see after this weekend and after Slammiversary. Yeah, we might have Ed might have two of those flasks. We'll have to wait and see what goes on. But any final thoughts, everyone, before we wrap things up today? NXT, going to go around the table one last time. Anything you'd like to add?
No, go for it, fella.
No worries. Astrid?
No, nothing for me.
Ed?
I'm going to say something that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by. Everybody enjoy the wrestling you want to enjoy. Forget the haters. Forget all the people telling you have to watch this, you have to watch that. Enjoy whatever is going to bring you joy. If that's Great American Bash, watch that. If that's Evolution 2, watch that. If that's All In, watch that. If that's Saturday night's main event to watch Gunther lose to Goldberg, that's fine. Watch that too. Yeah.
Well, what was that?
Don't put that out there.
What?
No. I'm gonna. But the guy who runs most of our local establishment social media is Bobby Munson is going to hate me for that. I'm recording with him in about 20 minutes, but that's fine. I want to watch the world burn and watch Goldberg defeat Gunther for the championship on Saturday night's main event. I'll be covering that show too after it's over. But more importantly, just everybody enjoy the wrestling weekend. There is so much wrestling from everybody, whether it's Ring of Honor, AEW, TNA, WWE, indie promotions. I'm going to an indie promotion Friday night. I'm watching two wrestling shows on Saturday and reviewing them both, and then watching Evolution just to enjoy myself on Sunday. Just enjoy the stuff that you enjoy, and don't listen to anybody else when they tell you have to watch this, you have to watch that.
So well said. Couldn't agree more with that sentiment. Thank you so much. And also to Millie, enjoy SmackDown this Friday. Going to be there live. Have a fantastic time. Wrestling is to enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're all here. That's what we all like. We like pro wrestling. And of course, everyone has a different flavor of what they like. If yours happens to be strawberry and it happens to be TNA, that's fine. If it happens to be AEW, that's fine. If it's NXT and the Great American Bash and you've been watching this stream from start to finish, then a massive thank you to you. If you have enjoyed the video, please support the channel by hitting the like button, share with a friend, subscribe, all that good stuff as well. But massive thanks to NXT, also to Astrid and Ed as well from our local establishment. Astrid, you also have your own YouTube channel. I'm going to give you both the opportunities to get the plugs in. So Astrid, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, for me, my YouTube channel, just like my name, Astrid Pizarro. If you haven't subscribed, you can hit the like button on the stream that we have for taking over last night as well. I will not be covering Great American Bash this weekend, but I'll be covering Evolution with my great friend Mel Ball on Sunday night. So really excited for that. Highlighting the women as we like to do in our local establishment. And then on Tuesday, I'll be doing taking over with this one. So I'll probably have a bottle after this weekend happens, as you can see. But yeah, other than that, you can find me. My Twitter and Blue Sky is Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram and Threads is Astrid Pizarro20.
Fantastic indeed. Well worth the subscribe. Astrid does fantastic work in our community as well. And you do as well show up on a lot of different podcasts as well, and a lot of big ones as well from time to time as well. So thank you for taking the time to come here on this channel today. And Ed, yourself as well, great to have you on board as always. Please tell the lovely people where they can find you.
You can find me on almost all of my content on our local establishment, Ole podcast on all the social medias, or at our local establishment on YouTube and Twitch. We simulcast all kinds of different things between wrestling and pop culture, things like that. On top of all of my wrestling shows, where you can catch me almost the entire weekend on the Our Local Establishment channel. You can also catch me most Wednesdays for the foreseeable future, as we've got a whole bunch of Marvel talk coming up. It's a show I do. We talk about Marvel. We got the DC talk coming up because it's a special thing because we're covering the Superman movie that opens this weekend. So we'll be doing that this Wednesday. And then we'll be getting into the Fantastic Four in a couple of weeks when that comes out. And then we're going to get back to our MCU Rebound, where we go through the entirety of the MCU, where we started at the beginning. We're now up to Black Panther will be our next MCU Rebound. And again, like I said, you can find all that content at our local establishment. Steve, thank you very much for having us on for this. For all of the YouTubers, rank things, we love those so much. So thank you for doing this and bringing the community in. You are one of our favorite people, which is why we have the running joke that this contract has another 4 years left on it. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I guess that means that we'll be making our jump over to you this time next year. And it's something that's been a lot of fun. I remember, like you said, it was 2021 the first time we did this. So there's like the 4th year running. So it's a relationship that's always worked so well. And it's tradition after all. So I'll be having my my hot apple pie, I think, at the standby when it comes to Great American Bash this weekend.
I do think it's funny. We could with NXT, we could pick any of these big shows like New Year's Evil or Stand and Deliver. We choose we're going to choose the Summer Bee show where nothing important ever happens into the Great American Bash every year.
And the thing is, we're together every year at that time as well, and we like to make it feel special and important for everybody watching. But hopefully, we've done that for you watching tonight, everybody. And NXT, do you want to share any social stuff with everybody? I never really give you that opportunity on this platform.
I don't really have a lot, really. I mean, that TikTok NXT, that's probably the only one I've got, really. Dude, like I said, I'm part of the furniture here, really. I don't really do much else.
Absolutely. To be fair, we're happy with that as well. NXT's on the contract as well. You could call him a prisoner, to be fair, at this point. Thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. Enjoy Great American Bash. If you want to see Evolution predictions, they're available for you right now. Myself and NXT got those earlier tonight. Take care, all the best, and keep an eye on the channel as well, because Saturday night's main event and AEW All-In predictions will be on the way over the next couple of days, probably in the form of shorts. So keep an eye out for those. Take care, all the best. See you for the next one.